Returning to the Sacred Heart Catholic boarding school as a teacher, the protagonist never expected the familiar halls to conceal such chilling secrets. Amidst the solemn prayers and oppressive silence, one thing stands out: the sixth locker. What begins as quiet curiosity soon spirals into obsession as whispers in the dark. A prophetic childhood diary and a forbidden ritual reveal the school's haunting past. A dark Gothic horror story where faith and fear intertwine. The Sixth Locker explores how some secrets are locked away for a reason, and opening them may cost one's very soul.
The heavy oak doors groaned as I pushed them open, the familiar scent of aged wood and faint incense wrapping around me like a shroud. After all these years, the Sacred Heart Catholic boarding school still stood stoic, its ancient stone walls whispering memories I thought long buried beneath layers of time and forgetfulness. I was back, not as a frightened child, but as a teacher. The very thought sent a ripple of unease through my chest. Walking down the cavernous hallways, my footsteps echoed against the stone floor, mingling with distant murmurs of prayers and the occasional clatter of footsteps. The sunlight filtering through the stained glass windows painted kaleidoscopes of color onto the worn wooden benches and cracked tiles. It was beautiful and oppressive all at once, a place where faith and fear seemed entwined in a perpetual dance. I passed classrooms bearing peeling nameplates, a faint chalk scent lingering in the air. The memories bubbled up unexpectedly, the harsh discipline, whispered warnings, and an unyielding routine that molded us into something neither fully child nor fully adult. As I approached the teacher's lounge, my pace slowed. The chatter of staff seeped out from behind the door, a blend of weary voices and the rustle of papers. Inside, the room buzzed with a muted energy. Colleagues exchanged tired smiles and cautious greetings. I recognized a few faces from the faculty list, but most were strangers. The walls were lined with lockers uniform, gray and metal. Each bore a small number, except for one that stood apart, the sixth locker. Its surface was scarred and chipped, the faded paint hinting at years of neglect, and it was secured by a heavy padlock that gleamed coldly under the fluorescent light. I noticed how conversations dipped whenever someone neared it. Eyes darted away, and an unspoken rule seemed to govern its presence: approach not, speak not. My curiosity flared, but I swallowed it, reminding myself to keep the peace on this first day. Father Donovan caught my eye from across the hall. His tall frame was cloaked in traditional clerical robes, his sharp eyes behind thin glasses narrowing slightly. When he approached, his voice was low and edged, with an authority that brooked no argument. Remember, this institution demands discipline and discretion. The past here is not for idle curiosity. I nodded, swallowing a question that hovered on my lips about the sixth locker. His gaze lingered a moment longer before he turned away, the chill of his warning settling deep inside me. Later, Sister Agnes sat quietly in the corner of the lounge. Her habit was immaculate, her expression stern and unreadable. I caught her eyes briefly. They were filled with a silent caution that made my skin prickle. As the hum of staff chatter flowed around us, I noticed how the mention of the sixth locker caused a subtle shift in the room's atmosphere, voices growing hushed, glances flickering nervously. That evening, alone in my modest quarters, I found my thoughts circling back to that locker. Why was it so carefully guarded? What secrets did it hold? The school, with its religious devotion and rigid order, felt like a fortress, not only of brick and stone, but of hidden fears and forbidden knowledge. As I lay awake in the thin bed, the distant tolling of the chapel bell marking the hour, I felt a strange mix of anticipation and dread. Returning to Sacred Heart was supposed to be a homecoming, a new chapter. Instead, it felt like stepping into a shadowed labyrinth where the past whispered threats I could no longer ignore. Tomorrow, I promised myself I would learn more. But tonight, the sixth locker remained locked, silent, and watchful, as if guarding not just objects, but the very soul of the school. I had barely settled into the worn wooden chair of the teacher's lounge when I first heard it a faint creak, like the hesitant groan of old hinges reluctant to yield. The room was nearly empty, save for the soft rustling of papers and the distant echo of footsteps fading down the hall. My eyes drifted involuntarily to the sixth locker, that unyielding slab of metal standing out in stark defiance against a row of cabinets. Locked, always locked. And tonight, something whispered behind it. It was subtle at first, a whisper almost swallowed by the thick silence of the building after hours. I froze, every nerve alert. Was it the wind? The settling of the old walls? But the whispers, soft, breathy, were not random. They seemed purposeful, deliberate. A faint human murmur, indecipherable yet unmistakable. I strained to hear more, heart hammering as the shadows seemed to thicken around that ominous locker. The next morning, I approached the lounge with a new awareness, eyes flicking to the sixth locker as I poured coffee. My curiosity was a stubborn itch, impossible to ignore. What was behind that door? Why was it forbidden? I found myself asking the other teachers, carefully, veiling my questions beneath casual conversation. Sister Magdalene, who bore the weight of decades at the school with austere grace, was the first to respond, but not with answers. Instead, her gaze sharpened, and her voice dropped to a whisper almost as chilling as the one I'd heard. Some doors, she said, are locked for a reason. Curiosity can be a dangerous thing here. The sixth locker holds what we do not speak of. It is better left alone. Her words, wrapped in warning and something deeper fear, only fueled my obsession. I pressed on, seeking out Mr. Callahan during a break. His demeanor was lighter, a knowing smirk playing at the edges of his mouth as he regarded my questions. "Ah, the sixth locker," he said, voice low and conspiratorial. "Legends cling to it like ivy. Forbidden archives. Secrets of the school's past, hidden away. Some say it's a vault for things that could unravel the very foundation of our faith here." The stories swirled in my mind, mixing with childhood memories I had long buried. Shadows of fear from late nights in the dormitories, the oppressive rituals, the whispered warnings from nuns about temptation and sin. The sixth locker felt less a piece of furniture and more a sentinel guarding a nightmare. Emily, a kindred spirit among the younger staff, soon became my confidant. We huddled in hushed corners, piecing together fragmented rumors and half-truths overheard in corridors. Her eyes mirrored my unease, yet she urged caution. "Whatever it is," she said softly, "there's a reason no one touches it. Maybe some secrets are meant to stay buried." But the whispers grew louder in my mind, relentless as a prayer chanted in the dark. One evening, as the school's ancient clock tolled the late hour, I found myself near the teacher's lounge again. The air was thick, heavy with the scent of old wood and wax polish. The sixth locker seemed to breathe, a living thing waiting patiently for me. Then, a flicker of light caught my eye, a brief, unnatural shimmer from the dusty mirror hanging crookedly on the hallway wall. I paused, heart icy as I glimpsed my own reflection. But not quite my own. The face staring back was younger, eyes wide with a child's uncomprehending terror. The boundaries between past and present blurred in that flickering moment, and a cold dread seeped into my bones. I stumbled back, breath caught in my throat, the whispers swelling around me like a gathering storm. What was the truth behind the locked door? What horrors did the school conceal beneath its pious facade? Questions gnawed at me, unsettling and unyielding, like the shadows that clung to every corner of those sacred halls. As I left the lounge that night, the sixth locker stood silent once more, its secrets intact for now. But I knew, deep down, that I would not rest until I had unlocked its mysteries. The whispers had found me, and they would not let go. The night air was colder than usual as I made my way back to my quarters, and I couldn't shake the feeling that every shadow held a watching eye, every silence a hidden voice. The past was reaching out, pulling me back into a world I thought I'd escaped. And the sixth locker was the key. The teacher's lounge was unusually silent that evening, the usual chatter of staff long gone as the dim lights flickered overhead, casting long, wavering shadows on the worn linoleum floor. I sat alone grading papers, the rhythmic scratch of my pen the only sound breaking the heavy stillness. My eyes kept darting toward the row of lockers lining the wall, each numbered with peeling paint, until my gaze fixed on the sixth. For weeks, it had been a silent enigma, a locked box no teacher dared to open or even approach. Tonight, something was different. A sudden creak sliced through the quiet, a slow, groaning sound like the world itself exhaling after years of restraint. My heart skipped as I watched, breath caught in my throat, the sixth locker's rusted hinges protesting as the door swung open a fraction, revealing darkness within. I hesitated, a mix of curiosity and unease rooting me in place. The air shifted, colder now, laden with dust and something indefinably ancient. I stood, every nerve taut, and approached the locker with tentative steps. Inside, the faint outline of a book caught my eye. Its leather cover was cracked and faded, worn by time, yet somehow inviting. I reached in, pulling it free, and instantly a cloud of dust billowed up, filling my lungs with dry, choking articles. The cover bore my initials, faint but unmistakable, my childhood handwriting. It was my diary. I sank into the nearest chair, the diary trembling slightly in my hands. Opening it, I was greeted by the neat scrawl of a younger me, the ink faded but legible. The entries were innocent at first day-to-day memories, childish hopes, and fears, but as I turned the pages, the tone shifted. The diary began to chronicle events that hadn't yet occurred, but were set for the morrow. Each prediction was precise, detailing tragedies that would unfold within the walls of this very school. A chill ran down my spine as I read the words describing a fire in the East Wing, a sudden illness among students, and a mysterious disappearance. My mind reeled, struggling to reconcile the impossibility of it. How could a child's diary foresee such horrors? And why had it been locked away in that cursed locker, hidden from all? The boundaries between past and present blurred as I read on, the diary's prophetic entries gnawing at my sanity. Memories of my childhood here, once distant and faded, surged back with vivid intensity, fragments of fear, confusion, and a haunting sense of being watched. The school's oppressive atmosphere, the strict religious rites, the whispered warnings from nuns and priests, they all converged in this moment of terrifying clarity. A sudden noise drew my attention to the hallway. The building was supposed to be empty, yet faint whispers echoed from the shadows. My heart hammered as I closed the diary, the weight of unseen eyes pressing upon me. The locker door had shut silently behind me, leaving only the soft hum of the building's ancient pipes. I realized then that the sixth locker was not merely a storage space, but a portal between my past and a future I was helpless to change. The diary was a tether, binding me to a destiny I was only beginning to understand, a dark prophecy that threatened to consume me whole. As the night deepened, I sat alone in the teacher's lounge, the diary open on my lap, the silence thick with dread. Tomorrow's tragedies awaited, inked in the hand of my younger self, and I was trapped in their shadow, desperate to unravel the mystery before it was too late. The creaking lock had opened more than a door. It had unlocked a nightmare from which there was no waking. I glanced once more at the locker, now firmly shut, its secrets still lurking in the darkness beyond. The question burned in my mind: how could the past predict the future with such chilling accuracy? And what price would I pay for uncovering the truth? The air in the office was thick, with the scent of old paper and candle wax, a faint chill crawling along the spine of the room. I sat hunched over the worn pages of the diary, the flickering candle casting dancing shadows that seemed to mock my mounting dread. Outside, the church bells tolled somberly, their deep resonance weaving through the stillness like a dirge. I traced the inked words with trembling fingers, each sentence more disturbing than the last. A diary wasn't merely a relic of my childhood. It was a grim oracle, its entries sinister premonitions of calamities yet to unfold within these very walls. The events predicted had begun to unfold with an eerie precision that unsettled me to my core. Just yesterday, the diary had warned of an accident involving a member of the faculty. I had brushed it off as childish imagination until the sharp crack of a fall echoed through the hallways, followed by hurried footsteps and muffled cries. Ms. Larkin's pale face appeared in the staff room doorway, her eyes wide with shock as she whispered the news of a sprained ankle suffered during a misstep on the stairs. The words echoed in my mind, blurring the line between prophecy and reality. I found myself retreating more and more into solitude, the diary a constant companion and tormentor. The very symbols of faith that once offered solace now seemed twisted into instruments of horror. In the chapel, I stood transfixed before a crucifix cracked jaggedly down its center, the fracture illuminated by the flickering candlelight and stained glass casting a blood-red hue. The sacred object, meant to embody salvation, now whispered of fracture and despair. I questioned everything, my memories, my identity, even my sanity. Was I the author of these prophecies, or merely a pawn caught in their unfolding? Conversations with Sister Agnes and Father Malone grew strained. Sister Agnes's piercing gaze seemed to see through the facade I struggled to maintain, while Father Malone offered quiet prayers that felt both comforting and hollow. Ms. Larkin, ever kind, expressed concern over my distracted demeanor, but left me to wrestle with the shadows alone. One night, compelled by a restless urgency, I wandered the deserted corridors, the floorboards creaking underfoot and whispers seeming to trail just beyond hearing. My breath came quick and shallow, heart pounding in my ears as I dared to glance behind. The hallway remained empty, yet the oppressive silence pressed upon me like a suffocating shroud. The diary's words echoed relentlessly in my mind, a chorus of dread that threatened to unravel my very being. Every prediction I uncovered was a thread pulling me deeper into a tapestry of fear and confusion. The boundaries between past and present, self and other, truth and illusion began to blur. I was caught in a relentless spiral, the sixth locker's secret gnawing at my soul as I teetered on the brink of revelation and madness. The diary's grip was tightening, and I feared what awaited beyond the next page. And yet, amidst the suffocating dread, a flicker of determination remained. I had to understand. I had to confront whatever darkness lay hidden beneath the sacred halls, before the next tragedy claimed another soul, and perhaps before I lost myself entirely. The night stretched on, the shadows deepening. Tomorrow's horrors loomed just beyond the horizon, and I was trapped in a nightmare that felt all too real. As the candle guttered and died, I whispered a prayer into the dark, hoping for mercy I wasn't sure I deserved. The sixth locker had opened a door I wished I could close, but the key was nowhere to be found. In the silence that followed, I heard it again, the faintest whisper, almost a breath, calling my name. The school felt heavier than ever as I stepped through the arched doorway leading to the chapel archives. The familiar scent of aged paper and incense mingled in the air, but beneath it lurked something older, something darker that I had never noticed as a child. Sister Agnes stood waiting, her gaze sharp beneath the dim glow of the wrought iron chandelier. "You're certain about this?" she asked quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. "I need to know. Whatever is tied to that sixth locker, it's connected to the diary. To me." She led me to a narrow wooden door, its surface worn and scratched with age. Behind it lay a spiral staircase descending into shadow. Each step creaked beneath my weight, the stone walls closing in like the ribs of some ancient beast. The air grew damp and cold, thick with the scent of dust and something faintly metallic. Somewhere in the distance, water dripped in a slow, haunting rhythm. At the bottom, a heavy iron door barred the way. Brother Michael joined us, his presence a grounding force amid the growing unease. He produced a large keyring, the keys clinking softly as he selected one and turned it in the lock. The door groaned open to reveal a chamber lined with shelves groaning under the weight of forgotten tomes and relics. The room smelled of mold and centuries-old secrets. Sister Agnes moved with practiced reverence, pulling a massive leather-bound book from a shelf. Opening it, she revealed pages yellowed with age, filled with cryptic script and faded illustrations of ritual symbols. This, she said, is part of the school's hidden history. I leaned in, eyes scanning the text. The words told of a ritual, one designed to bind the souls of the children enrolled here to the institution itself, a binding that granted the school a sort of unholy protection and power. The sixth locker was not just a storage space. It was a seal, a containment for what the ritual demanded. Suddenly, the diary's entries made a terrible kind of sense. My childhood fears, the predictions of tragedy, they were not just memories, but warnings encoded by the ritual's influence, written by my younger self, perhaps under some supernatural compulsion or possession. Brother Michael approached a second door, rusted and nearly swallowed by shadows. His hand trembled slightly as he fitted a key into the lock. The heavy iron gate swung open to reveal a hidden chamber, dimly lit by flickering candles. Here were relics, crucifixes with jagged edges, ancient rosaries, and a small wooden box that seemed to pulse with a dark energy. Among these artifacts lay the original key to the sixth locker, tarnished but unmistakable. The weight of the discovery pressed down on me like a physical force. This was no mere superstition or school legend. It was a reality that had been woven into the very fabric of the institution. Back in the main archive, I pored over a fragile manuscript that described the ritual's steps in painstaking detail. The language was archaic, filled with references to binding, sacrifice, and eternal vigilance. It spoke of a guardian spirit bound to the school, a force that ensured its survival but at a terrible cost. As I read, a chill crept over me. The diary's prophecies were not just predictions, but instructions, a guide for navigating the consequences of the ritual that had ensnared me and countless others before me. Sister Agnes watched me carefully. "The school has kept this secret for centuries," she said softly. "Many have tried to break the cycle, but none have succeeded. I clenched my fists. I have to try. For the students. For myself." The weight of the past pressed down on my shoulders, but beneath it burned a fierce determination. The truth was out, and now I had to face what it meant, not just for the school, but for the identity I thought I had long left behind. Outside, the wind howled through the ancient stone corridors, carrying with it the echoes of prayers and whispered warnings. The sixth locker was no longer just a mystery. It was a doorway, and I was standing on its threshold. And beyond it lay a reckoning I could no longer avoid. The heavy wooden door of the chapel groaned as I pushed it open, the scent of burning wax and aged wood thick in the chilled air. Candlelight flickered, casting dancing shadows across the stained glass windows, depicting saints whose eyes seemed to follow my every move. At the altar, Father Malachi stood, his voice a low monotone as he intoned prayers in Latin, the ancient words vibrating through the stone walls like a dark invocation. My heart thudded painfully against my ribs, an oppressive weight settling over me. The diary's last entries echoed in my mind, the prophecy culminating here, in this very room. I stepped forward, the floorboards creaking beneath my feet, and Father Malachi turned, his sharp gaze piercing through the dim light. "You should not have come," he said, voice grave, yet tinged with something unreadable, perhaps regret or warning. "The cycle must continue. The school's fate is bound to the sixth locker, and to you." I swallowed hard, clutching the diary to my chest. "What is this cycle? What have I become?" He sighed, the lines on his face deepening. "The diary you found is no mere record of past fears. It is a vessel of prophecy, a tether linking generations of students to the school's hidden truth. Each who reads it becomes a part of the ritual of sacrifice to preserve the sanctity of this place." A sudden chill swept through the chapel, extinguishing several candles and plunging the room into near darkness. The silence was broken by the unmistakable creak of metal, a sound I knew too well. The sixth locker. Rushing back to the teacher's lounge, my breath ragged, I saw it. The locker's door slightly ajar, a faint, eerie light spilling from within. Whispers, barely audible, reached my ears, voices of those lost to the school's dark past, their lament entwined with the rusted hinges. As I stepped closer, the air thickened, pressing against my lungs. The diary pulsed in my hands, its pages fluttering as if alive. A voice inside me, not my own, urged me forward, promising answers yet demanding surrender. I hesitated, then reached into the locker's cold, cavernous interior. My fingers brushed against something smooth and cold, a relic wrapped in ancient cloth. Pulling it free, I uncovered a crucifix, tarnished and etched with symbols I couldn't decipher. Behind it, a hidden compartment revealed faded parchment, a detailed account of the school's founding, the occult rites performed to bind its spirit, and the curse that ensnared its students. Suddenly, Sister Agnes appeared, her expression a mixture of fear and determination. "You must choose," she whispered. "Seal the locker and break the cycle, but risk losing yourself forever, or embrace the darkness and become part of the school's legacy." The weight of the choice was unbearable. The diary's prophetic pages tore violently in my hands, the ink bleeding like fresh wounds. The room spun, my identity fracturing into shards of past and present, reality and nightmare. The rain began to fall outside, drumming a relentless cadence against the windows. In the courtyard shadows, I faced the locker one last time. As I reached out, the voices crescendoed into a chilling chorus, and the ground beneath me seemed to tremble. With a final breath, I slammed the locker shut. The world snapped back into place, silence swallowing the whispers. Yet inside me, something had irrevocably changed, a dark seed planted, forever tethering my soul to the sixth locker in the sacred halls I once called home. I turned away, the diary now silent, the school's legacy sealed for another day. But in the depths of my mind, the question lingered. Was this truly the end, or merely the beginning of a new chapter in the haunting tale of the sixth locker? The shadows lengthened as I walked away, the flicker of candlelight behind me winking out, leaving only the cold embrace of uncertainty.